Alright, Thursday thoughts for another week. I'm going to probably go on a little bit of a rant today. So, I was tagged yesterday in a video or a story that was done by Channel 7 on a recent study that was done. Now, Channel 7 said in their little 30-second clip that doing over 7.5 hours of exercise a week will cause you to get clogged arteries and cause you to die. So basically, if that is the case for me, I should probably be dead by now. So firstly, let me address the issue of what's so wrong with what they've done. Firstly, if you actually go to the study, and I'm talking about the actual study that was done, they haven't cited the study, they have not said who it was done by, they haven't said any of that. They've just made this outlandish claim that if you do over 7.5 hours of exercise a week, you have an increased risk of heart disease and you will probably die an earlier death. So firstly, that's number one. They needed to actually go through and cite where that was from. It took a little bit of research on my behalf to actually find the study and have a read into it. Secondly, the people that will be watching that do not need another excuse to not do less exercise or less movement. Okay, the point of doing physical activity and doing physical exercise is to try and get as healthy as you can. Now, providing you are taking the right approach with your exercise and you are getting somebody to help you with a plan and you are moving in the right direction, you should be able to do well over 7.5 hours of exercise a week. Because if you actually read into the study and you go through what it is about, they talk about things like walking and lawn bowls and golf as exercise. So I would say most people who do any form of structured gym training at a facility like ours or somewhere else are more than likely doing over 7.5 hours of exercise a week. Next thing, when I actually went into the study and I actually looked at it, it was done over a 25-year period. And what they're looking to track is they're looking to track any link between the amount of physical activity you do over the national guidelines. This was in America, and subclinical coronary artery disease as measured by coronary artery calcium. So they're basically trying to work out the links between the amount of physical activity you do and how much calcium is in your arteries and how that relates to the development of CAD. So as we went through the study, going through it, there is a little bit there that is probably missing. Things that needed to be addressed and needed to be measured that looks like it wasn't within there. Probably the biggest thing is diet. Over a 25-year period in a control group of over 3,000 people, when you're talking about the development of calcium in your arteries and how that relates to heart disease, is what were all these people eating? Okay, if you have a group of people that are doing over 7.5 hours of training a week and their arteries are, the calcium in their arteries has increased over a 25-year period, and you haven't tracked what they've been eating, or controlled, more importantly, being a study, controlled what they've been eating over that time, how do you know it's not diet related? How can you honestly say that it's due to the physical activity that they've done? Okay, that's a hard thing to control over a 25-year period amongst 3,000 people, what they're putting in their mouth. And now we know for a fact that things like heart disease can be directly related to diet. So if Channel 7 is citing a study where this hasn't been controlled and they're just specifically saying it's because of exercise, what they are doing is they are misrepresenting what the study was actually about. So do not whatever you do, believe everything that you see on TV, especially when it comes to exercise. There is a lot of misinformation out there. I did a video earlier talking about how volume isn't the answer. And you're right, for some people, doing 7.5 hours, over 7.5 hours a week of high intensity exercise may not be the right path for them. The moral to the story is you need to talk to somebody about your particular set of circumstances. You need to seek a professional's opinion and let them give you a plan for you, for your goals, and what you are trying to achieve. The biggest thing that needs to happen when it comes to your exercise is have a plan. Okay, if you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail, and it's that simple. Regardless of what you see on Channel 7 or regardless of what you see in studies that come out, make sure you consult somebody, get that plan together, and go forward from there. For some people, doing over 7.5 hours of intense exercise a week is well and truly within the realms of possibility and within the realms of working towards a healthy lifestyle. But when you're talking about things like playing golf and sports or activities of that nature, I think everybody needs to be doing more than 7.5 hours of activity. You know what is worse than doing 7.5 hours of activity? What I am doing now, sitting on a chair for 8 friggin' hours a day. That is much worse for you than doing 7.5 hours of activity, over 7.5 hours of activity a week. So get out, get active, get a plan,